A big hello to everyone. My name is Shireen Idikla. I am the Clinical Director of PlayStreet, Bangalore, India. I'm also a speech and language therapist, a feeding therapist, and now a movement therapist. PlayStreet is an organization that provides educational services to help the child with special needs become independent and live up to his or her potential. We offer parent empowerment programs and integrated schooling programs and a variety of clinical services. As you all know by now, we decided to create this platform as part of April's Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month so that we could bring to you the pioneers in the field of autism to guide us all and spread more awareness and knowledge. So today is our 9th talk, and our amazing speaker for today is Ms. Julie Sando Johnston. Julie is the director at Natural Play Therapy and owner and founder at Autistically Inclined. She has worked with over 1,000 families touched by autism worldwide since 1998, studying everything from behavior modification to relationship-based modalities, and that is what inspired the creation of Natural Play Therapy. Thank you so much, Julie, for accepting our invitation to be a part of this summit. We are so honored to have you here. And before we begin, I wanted to ask if you had a few words for our viewers.
Thank you so much. And yes, I'm just so grateful to be here and to be a part of this amazing thing that you're putting on. It's huge. And just to all the people who are watching, I'm so glad you're here. All of these things that you're touching on, relationships and play and connection and movement and communication, connection, all these things are my favorite things. So I am geeking out just being able to be here and be with you all. So thank you all for being here. I think all of these topics are so important and such a huge key to knowing how to best help and support your loved ones.
Thank you so much. So today's conversation is about the mind-body disconnect and its effects on children with autism. And for that, we had to bring Julie in because she's the one who actually introduced me to this concept many years ago in a conference in Kolkata. And I was blown away that, oh my gosh, I never even realized these things were happening. And it was such a privilege for me to be able to listen to Julie talk. And I thought, okay, when we are deciding on the summit, Julie's definitely supposed to come in here because we need that information. So let's start with the first question. What is the mind-body disconnect and how did you come to realize this?
I love that. I love that. Yeah. So like you said, I've been in this field since 1998, and it wasn't until about 2015 that I had my aha moment where I realized what this brain-body disconnect was all about. So, you know, basically before 2015, I just thought what I see is truth. And that the kids and adults that we work with, you know, if you give them directions and they're not able to follow them, that maybe they need some more help understanding or right, that sort of thing. But in 2015, I had one of my families that I've known since 2001. Their son at this time, in I think about 2015-ish, he was about 18 years old. And they had a breakthrough with his communication. And this guy, when he was 18, he would watch the Wiggles videos over and over and over on repeat, right? This favorite children's cartoon from his childhood. And he would, he has quite a bit of speech, but it's very echolalic. So he would ask the same questions over and over about the Wiggles and want you to respond in a certain way. So if anybody asked me what he loved, what to get him as a gift, right? My first response would have been like anything the Wiggles. So he has this breakthrough with his communication where he learns how to point to letters on a letterboard to communicate. And his family was so blown away that they flew me to their house. They live in Colorado, I'm in California. And they said they wanted me to meet the real Kagan. And here Kagan is spelling out on this letterboard and telling me that he hates the Wiggles, that he's stuck, doing the same thing over and over. And sure, maybe when he was 6, he enjoyed the wiggles, but then it just became something that his body got stuck doing over and over. So that was my first introduction to this mind-body disconnect, which is basically where that body gets stuck and isn't able to always do what they intend for it to do. So one familiar that many people would be familiar with would be if somebody has a stroke and suddenly they lose the ability to feed themselves with a fork. We don't suddenly think, oh, he doesn't understand how to use a fork, right? We know because we've seen that they know what a fork is, they know how to use it, and they just can't get their body to do what they want it to do. And that's what this dyspraxia and apraxia is I'm thinking something and I can't get it to come out of my mouth, or I can't get my body to do it. And that's the brain-body disconnect.
So you've just put it together with an example. So, it's the best. So then again, like you just mentioned, dyspraxia. Now, is this the same as dyspraxia in children, or is it something altogether different?
I think there's a lot of research that still needs to be done. But to me, it sounds pretty similar. I think that when you're thinking something and you're intending to make that purposeful movement with your body and your body doesn't listen to your brain, it's a brain-body disconnect.
Right. Explains it very well. So in that case, then what are some of the signs that could tell us that the individual could be having a mind-body disconnect? Are there some examples you could give us or experiences you have that you could share with everybody?
Yes. So Kagan let us know that he actually hated the wiggles. He was angry with the wiggles, right? But then I've had other students who are, this 14-year-old named Jordan who he would watch Baby Einstein over and over and over. And when he learned to communicate in this way, he says, I'm not like a fan of Baby Einstein, but Baby Einstein is very calming and regulating to me. So there's, everybody's going to have a different experience with how they view things because it's all personal opinion, personal experiences. But one pretty good rule of thumb that I've gathered from speaking directly with non-speaking autistic people, right, is that if it's not age appropriate, it's probably not a true motivation. It might be calming, it might be regulating, or it might be something that they are stuck in. So if something is not age appropriate, it's not bad or wrong necessarily. It's just, it could be something that they're stuck doing repeatedly.
Okay, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, this was what blew my mind away a few years ago when you talked about this, and I had never even heard of something like this. And it really kind of like, oh, there is a concept like this, and this is exactly what I'm going to ask you. You said they're stuck. And is that what, last time you mentioned motor loop, you're stuck in a motor loop, right? So could you talk a little bit more about that? What is a motor loop?
Yes. So picture every time you learn a new skill, right? What's happening inside your brain is you're building a pathway. So when you've never done something before, there's no pathway in your brain, but you practice that skill and you start to build the pathway. Then when you do that skill more and more and more, that pathway actually gets a fatty substance that grows around it called myelination. And the more you practice, the more that pathway gets myelinated. And so it becomes thicker and thicker and thicker. And those thicker pathways can be those ones that then turn into motor loops. So that pathway of finding the wiggles on his iPad on YouTube was very myelinated. So myelinated that he wasn't even having to think about that action. It was just automatic. And he's just oh, I see the iPad, this is what I do. I see the iPad, this is what I do. And I think so many times in different approaches, especially with autism, right, we're focused on repetition, repetition, repetition,
Right.
versus what we need to do is really focus. Now, repetition can be very handy for certain skills, right? Going to the bathroom and learning how to wipe. If we can help myelinate those pathways, that's a good thing.
Mhm.
So it's not bad, but when it starts to impede on day-to-day life, then our kids get stuck not being able to do all the things that they want to do. So if we keep things new and novel, then we're not creating motor loops, right?
Okay.
And we're focusing more on that purposeful part of their brain rather than that automatic part for when we want to be able to expand.
So when a child gets stuck in this motor loop, are you saying that if you introduce something new and novel, it kind of helps them get out of that motor loop and into a new motor plan?
It can. So, it's interesting learning, I think these two examples with Jordan and Kagan, right? Jordan would go out into the world and would be very overwhelmed and would come home and he would spell on his device, I need baby Einstein for like an hour or two,
Mm-hmm.
And then after an hour or two where he was relaxing and calm, his mom would come and check and say, do you still want baby Einstein? And he could then learned to purposefully communicate yes or no. And she would know when to help him move through it. So really looking at ways to help our kids learn that purposeful communication is what's going to give us the best information. But if somebody is stuck in a loop, giving them something slightly different. Now, I think one thing that's important is doing this confidently, because coming from a play-based background, right? In the approaches that I've learned, we would give a lot of control to the child. It was very child-led rather than a more balanced, like, relationship, right? And so I was trained where if the child needs a break, you give them a break. And you're basing all of this on appearances that may or may not be accurate.
Right.
So with the giving them one thing to do, I think if you do it in a confident way, it makes a difference. Coming from my background, I had to learn that because I felt guilty or bad, like I'm doing something wrong by stopping them. And so I was like, are you sure you want to stop this? I don't know. And then that just kind of fuels them to be stronger, that impulse in them to be stronger. And so if I come in confidently with love, with flexibility, right? And say, I'm not sure if you're stuck or if you're wanting to do something different. I might offer my hands as two choices. And I might say, here, hand me this, put this in the hand that you want. And I'd say, okay, do you want to keep watching this video, or do you need help doing something different? And then I hand it to them, and whichever hand they place it in, I go with that. So a lot of kids might put it in both, right? But the second they put it in one, I pull it away, and then we learn, like, okay, we've got to slow down. We've got to help this become a purposeful choice. So that's a skill to work on too.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Now, how does this affect the emotional level of the child? Like, I'm stuck. I don't want to do this, but my body's just doing it. And
Yes.
everyone thinks for example, I'm a baby. I'm treating me like a baby because that's what I'm showing everybody, right? So how does it affect the child's emotional level?
Yes, it can be heartbreaking to when you can have a conversation with these people finally after so many years and hear them speak about their frustrations with being treated like they're in kindergarten when they're 15 years old and doing the same skills over and over and looking one way, appearing one way when they're not intending to do what they're doing, it can be devastating to them. It can be really hard. And so one of the things that's made such a big difference in my relationship with my students is to tell them, I'm sure you want to be able to do so much more than what we're seeing. And we're going to help you be able to expand and learn. And I can still teach you, even if you're watching the wiggles on your video. That doesn't have to stop me. If that's keeping you calm, awesome. But I can still speak to you and teach you age appropriate things, even if your body is stuck.
Right. And they need to know that there's somebody in their corner all the time, right? It's so important for all of us to know that there's somebody there who will trust me, who will believe in me, and who will try something more than what I'm showing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So now, looking at the practical aspects, so how could we work with this mind-body disconnect that happens? Are there ways to improve this connection?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So a few things, and then I'm going to get that just to summarize a few things. One is exposing them to more age appropriate activities, right? So even if they are doing things that are, repetitive and maybe younger, still find ways to talk to them the way that you would talk to anybody else their age. Explain to them about this brain-body disconnect that you've learned about, and tell them that there's definitely ways that we can work on this. And purposeful movement is one of those ways. So that's why when I see movement here, I'm like, yes, you guys are amazing, because this can be worked on throughout the day. If I have a cup of water, right, I might be used to doing a lot of that work and bringing it up to their mouth and standing right there, right? But I might next time hold it a little farther out and let them reach out and grab it. That's a purposeful movement right there. It's a little different. So just expanding upon ways. If you're both sitting on the couch and I might typically reach over and grab that remote control myself, but I could use that as an opportunity to say, hey, can you grab that and hand it to me? Just how can they participate in life purposefully in a variety of ways? So it's not the same thing over and over and over. That's building all sorts of new pathways in their brain that they can then, they're practicing that skill of being purposeful with their body.
Right. So it could be anything through the day that would just get them to make that purposeful movement. So, but I have something, I'm going to digress a little, but when you say asking them to do things for you, is it that do this, now pick that up, give it to me, do that,
Good distinction.
Because it happens that way with I'm not talking about just parents, but professionals too, who just think that following instructions is what is how we could understand if a child knows something or not. So, okay, you want purposeful movement, I'm just going to give them instructions through the day, and okay, they're doing this, so it's purposeful. Is it that way?
I am so glad you asked. Absolutely not. It's the opposite of that, right? I want to be natural with them and laid back with them and loving. And because the second it becomes a command, I'm almost creating loops myself, right? Because it's like, oh, every time there's an opportunity to work, I'm doing this same tone, this same forceful way, where that's just actually fueling motor loops in itself that you are a part of. So in order to break out of those loops, that's one piece of it. But the second piece of it is the relationship aspect of it, right? Like nobody wants to be bossed around, and especially if your body doesn't listen to your brain, that's frustrating in itself. And if you have somebody commanding you, it almost shuts them down. right? And makes it harder to be purposeful. So I like to be very relaxed and very calm and serene and natural. The way that I would speak to a friend, the way that I would speak to you, hey, Shireen, can you pass me that? Can you pass me that water? Like, thank you so much. That's awesome. Like, it really genuinely helped me. And how many times is it that our kids, our students are in the position of always being helped? And what a beautiful thing to give them that experience of being able to help us.
Right.
It builds confidence, it builds trust, it deepens that relationship.
Absolutely. They feel they are part of something rather than, okay, I have a problem. No one trusts me to do anything. Everyone thinks I can't do anything. So when you're like, can you help me do this? Oh, you're asking me for help.
Right? The tables have turned. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that. Now, you work with a lot of individuals who are non-speaking. Again, I will say non-speaking, not it's
non-verbal, right?
Yeah, it's such a distinction to make non-verbal versus non-speaking. Again, it's something I've consciously made an effort to change because it really is important to make that distinction. So yeah, the question was, you work with a lot of individuals who are non-speaking. Now, what advice would you give parents or professionals, teachers, the general community who equate non-speaking to non-thinking, and who also feel if only speech is present, does it prove that the child or the individual knows something?
I think it breaks my heart because I relate to that, right? 1998, it's we've all been there, and what that does is it keeps you all stuck. It keeps you stuck doing the same thing over and over, which is extremely frustrating for you, right? Oh, we're matching colors again. Like, oh, why can't we get this? This is so frustrating. I mean, I would leave work and I would cry because it was just like, I felt like I was banging my head against a wall. Imagine how it is for that kid who knows what red is and what blue is, and they can't. And so my advice is look up The Least Dangerous Assumption by Anne Donnellan. She coined this phrase, and this is really saying, which assumption is more dangerous to make? Is it that the child doesn't understand because they're not responding to requests? Or is it that they're understanding, but they're not able to get their body to respond? Or maybe they haven't been taught yet, and so I can still expose them and teach them and not worry so much about having their body show me that they understand. I can still talk to them. I can still expose them. I can still teach them and take that pressure off their body. If you find out you're wrong, right, and you've always been dumbing things down for your student for 20 years, that is a more dangerous assumption than to find out you were wrong about them being able to understand more than they can show. And I'd rather be wrong and have taught them so much than be wrong and have limited them their whole lives.
Absolutely. Presuming competence.
Boom.
and again, that's something that a few children that I worked with blew my mind with that. They were working on in their behavior, the program, it was more ABC, 1 to 3, 1 to 3, and just repeat of that. And when the child or the children, actually not just one, but many, who were exposed to a form of communication which is not speech-based and things. I remember one particular child, he blew my mind because he was able to type in sentences. He was defining mathematics for me. He was commenting about me and, how I look. And I'm like, here we go. We're teaching them ABC and 1, 2, 3, and this is what they're doing.
It's so true. Exactly. And it's what's interesting, right? Like same with me. Like it started with Kagan, There's one kid and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like good, good for him. And you just can't imagine that then that would apply to this kid and to that kid and to that kid. But then when you start to work on it with this kid and start to work on it with that kid, and you see these changes, it is not a one-off thing. It is not like, that's what I've learned is these kids are totally neurotypical inside. It doesn't mean they're all geniuses, but that means that they're, it's, some of us have more abilities and less abilities, but that's neurotypical. Like they're more neurotypical inside, meaning they're more like you and I, where some of them are really smart and some of them are have the same intelligence as you and I, and some of them might need a little more help. But it's not that all of them need more help. It's not that. That's an assumption that needs to go back to 1950.
And that's why I hate this term low functioning.
Yes.
Because the child I spoke about, he was deemed as low functioning. Because if you look at him, he's in a sensory world, he's continuously stimming, and he gets so anxious, he's running to the bathroom every 2 minutes almost, and you just like, oh, he's not really getting it, right? And he blew my mind.
Yes, yes. It is such a harmful label, because who wants to be called low functioning? What does that do to self-esteem? What does that do? What good does that do? It sets everybody's expectations low, right?
Exactly.
And then we all treat that kid like he's a baby for the rest of his life.
Absolutely. And so it's so important to, really understand that these terminologies, let's throw them out the window because we really don't need them anymore.
Right.
And that's the reason we wanted to bring all of you together and really kind of help everyone understand there's more to it. It's not just about modifying the behavior or, just the speech therapy or just this skill or just that skill. It's not just about that.
Yes. Oh, I love you so much.
The next question I have for you is, okay, so how do you encourage non-speaking individuals to communicate with the world? What's the process like?
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. So I think it starts out with having to, it's really me who changed more than them. And that's good news because I have control over changing me, right? We all know it's really hard to control changing our kids. That feels very hard. So if I can work on myself and how I speak to the student, how what I present to them, and suspend my disbelief, I have learned, and now I'm really good at it, right? I show up and the kid is like looking like they want nothing to do with me. I'm confident that I know that they have more to say than they're able to. I can be confident in that. I can be confident that they want to be able to experience more in life than they do. And so that's what when I show up with a new student and they see me as just some other therapist who's going to shove stuff down their throat and have these low expectations or whatever it may be, I tell them, first off, I know you have a lot more to say. I know that you want to experience more in life. I know that your body does not always listen to your brain, that sometimes you get stuck doing things that you really aren't that into. And so I want to expose you to new and different things in life. And I'm not going to let your body dictate, because I used to do that all the time. I'm not going to let your body dictate things, but I'm going to do this in a way that's loving and respectful. And I'm going to honor you throughout all of this. You are what's most important. Your voice is what's most important. And so, finding ways to slow them down by slowing ourselves down can help get them out of that impulsive part of their brain and into that purposeful part of their brain. And that's what we want. So asking them to, would you like to learn about science, or would you like to learn about math today, right? And then have them hand you an object to put in your hand. And slowing ourselves down and slowing them down to get that purposeful response. It's a skill to work on. You know, kids will just give you touch both hands or just, you know, whatever it is. So you had to work on it. But slowing ourselves down, explaining to them, doing age appropriate things, forget what their body is showing you and teach them.
Absolutely. Again, so I just want to ask, like when you say you try to get them to think about, you know, the choices, you gave them two choices. Would you like to do science or would you like to do math? And they need to put it, now you say they could do it randomly. So do you take that random choice and then say, okay, this is what you did. So do you continue? Or if you see them kind of resisting it, what's your process like?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because I feel like I experiment a lot and there isn't one answer for everyone. Mm-hmm. So I can give you a couple examples that contradict each other, right? But I think it's important to be in that mind frame of experimenting and thinking outside the box, because every student is so different. So let's say they quickly hand me one and it feels impulsive because it's fast and they're just kind of like not engaged and all of that. So sometimes I will, like, if they're reaching for this hand and then reaching for the other hand, I pull my hands away and I'm like, okay, cool, you chose math, let's do math. And I just move on, right? And I'm going to give them more opportunities to practice that skill and to I'm going to learn different ways to slow them down to get that purposeful response. So sometimes I will just take that choice and honor it and move on. And other times I might say, you know, I'm not quite sure if that was accurate or inaccurate. So I just want to check in if you want math. So is math accurate or inaccurate? Now this can lead you down a rabbit hole of like, oh, now they said it's inaccurate. And then I don't want to like go down, okay, now choose math, right? Okay, cool, it's inaccurate. It's just another way to kind of verify if I'm not quite sure if that's what they were wanting. But then I take that choice and run with it. And it doesn't matter because either way, I'm exposing them to something cool and age appropriate and, you know, and then we can be flexible.
Right. So it's not just about, no, you have to make this right choice. It's right. About, okay, can you control your body and figure out what you want to do? And then when you get multiple opportunities, could you fine tune that more and more and more?
Yes, and a lot of our kids have a lot of anxiety around making the right choice because we had drilled that into them. Nope, that's the wrong choice. Nope, try again. Like that just causes anxiety and causes them to be in that automatic place where they disconnect and they're just like, yep, whatever. Yep, whatever. This is what we're doing again. Yep.
Right.
So
yeah. And also I just want to highlight this again, what you said, slowing down. It is just something so difficult to do. I remember when I first heard about this concept of slowing down, because even as a therapist, you're taught, like a speech therapist, like, okay, you know, get going, like you have 10 flashcards, 15 flashcards, whatever, and you keep working on it, right? And I always in my head was thinking, this is just the wrong way of doing it, but okay, this is what I'm taught. So fine, let me try this out, right? Yes. But over years, I realized this is just not the way to teach a child, any child, you know, take 100 flashcards out and just teach them all these concepts. And I realized slowing down and just kind of connecting to them and just looking at, okay, what are you interested in? And can we do that together? Can we collaborate together? Can we, I don't know, do anything that's a back and forth with me and you? Yeah, that is so important because I think parents, professionals, teachers, everybody gets lost in the doing of everything, right? Do this, do that.
Yes. And you're not being. You're not
Mm.
being. That's exactly it. It's not dumbing our language down because they don't understand. It's not slowing ourselves down because they don't understand. It's slowing ourselves down to connect and to be human. To be human. Why are we not human anymore? You know?
Right. We tend to forget that, right? So much when we're working with children. I mean, I know I forgot it for the longest of times till thankfully, it came into my head that, Shireen, what are you doing, right? And we just tend to go into, okay, I have to achieve this goal. I have to achieve this goal. And parents get more overwhelmed because, okay, my occupational therapist has told me 5 goals. My speech therapist has told me 5 goals. My teacher has told me 5 goals. And the parents are like, I've got 20 goals to work on. So I just have to do.
And you want to know what a motor loop is? That's a motor loop. We have our own motor loops, right?
Right.
And we're just on autopilot, and we're just like, all right, do this, do this, do this, do this.
Right.
I'm in a motor loop.
Right, absolutely. It makes so much sense. And I'm hoping this is beneficial to parents because we've been talking a lot about slowing down with our parents in the past. We've been doing FB lives and we're like, slow down, slow down. It's so important to slow down. Don't go into this gung ho. And even now, when I get videos from parents about, could you see what's happening here? The first thing I notice is just about the doing. Okay, put this block in and put that in and do this and do that.
Yes, yes. You know, an interesting exercise. I remember I used to, this was in the early 2000s, right? And I was learning a different approach, and I would fill all the space and be talking a ton. And I remember my teachers giving me the homework assignment to go in and be with that student and not speak for 5 minutes. Just don't speak, just be with them. You can play, you can do whatever. And it like really changed. It helped me get like, wow, I was filling on that space and there's no space left for them. They just tune out and turn off, and like I'm not actually being with them. It helped me relax. And that's like when we're relaxed, we are a regulation partner to them and their sensory system. And then they can learn. They can't learn if they're, when I'm super stressed out, I've had a lot of stress in my life, right? I feel like I'm vibrating at this level up here, just like on high alert. And you can't take things in the same way when you're vibrating up here, right? And I think we can all relate to that stressful feeling. And so when we're stressed, the first thing we need to do is regulate, is to calm ourselves, and then we can take information in better. And so it starts with us. We're co-regulation partners, right?
Absolutely. I was just going to use that word, co-regulation. That's the way.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Have you heard of this book? Hold on.
Brain body parenting.
It's brand new, just came out by Mona De La Hook. And she talks a lot about like regulating that sensory system and connecting that brain and body. And it's good stuff. I haven't fully read it yet, but I've read her other books. And
lovely. Okay, this is for the viewers. This is a nice book for you all to read and really understand. Okay. Now, so when you're talking, I'm just going to come back to the non-speaking individuals that you work with. Now, how long does it take for you to bring in this process of communication? Now, are they going to resist it? And what is some advice you would give parents and professionals to kind of, get over the resistance?
Yes. Oh, I love these questions so much. So in the beginning, right, I was not a skilled communication partner. I had to learn. You're only as good as the weakest partner in the relationship, right? So if you are really skilled at salsa dancing and I have no experience in salsa dancing, that dance is not going to be pretty, even though you are very experienced, right? So if I'm learning and the student is learning, like, give yourself some grace. It's going to take a little more time because you both have to learn. Now that I've learned and I've practiced with tons of different students, right? I have a lot of experience. I have a lot more confidence. Sometimes I can go in with a brand new student, and I've had, most of the time, it might take months to a year, right? Depending, some students have more difficulty than others. I've had the rare experience where I go in and in a half an hour, the student has communicated something open-ended, and that's amazing and beautiful. It blows my mind. So it's just, it varies from student to student. When I was brand new, it probably took me a couple years, right, to get there with my student. So one of the things that helped speed that process up is, it's not letting those loops win, right? So I remember one of my students, Jake, I would get there and he'd always say, like, drink of water. And that's the most awesome distraction for him, right? Like, nobody's going to deny him water. And so then we spend 5 minutes going and getting water, and then we come back and like, I need more water. Then he has to go to the bathroom, and then, he's learned these really like actually skillful ways of getting out of work that is annoying, right? So I had to learn to be like, okay, we're going to have our water, but I started to see this as a motor loop that maybe he's stuck. Like, does he really want 8 cups of water? Probably not. So it's not that it's this balance and this dance where you're wanting to help them stay regulated, right? And so he would run away, he would ask for water, he would ask for the bathroom. And I had to get myself in a place where I could say, I'm going to give you things to regulate your body. Let me squeeze your hands while I talk to you about history, right? And so I'm regulating him, I'm calming him, I'm engaging him, I'm feeding his brain. I'm not fighting with him, right? I'm on his team, but we're not getting stuck in a loop of distraction at the same time. So I'm simultaneously being a regulation partner first and foremost, and feeding the brain and engaging his body. And he would yell, he would scream, he would bite himself. Occasionally he would bite me, right? And I just had to stay confident and come back to that thought of, I know you have so much more to say, and I know that you want to experience more in life. So I'm going to do my best to help your body stay regulated, and I'm going to continue to feed your brain, and I'm going to give you ways to engage your body. And if we need to take a break, and we do, but then we come back to it. And it's just trying to be soft in those moments,
right,
as we regulate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so again, it takes time.
Yeah.
You need to be a regulation partner. That's the first thing. And then it takes time. So I'm just going to ask a question right here is, when you're looking at being that partner and trying to get communication, and initially, is it more close-ended kind of communication, and it goes into open-ended much later?
Yes, that is very important. We don't want to, like, with that example with my, within a half an hour, he was making an open-ended statement. That comes with years of experience on my part, right? And it's not the common way. So starting with, especially when you're new, starting with things that have one possible response, or picking from a field of 2 where there's one response out of those 2 responses. So starting with a smaller field, and that way I know how to prompt them. This is huge. I always tell them so I'll read a paragraph of information, right? So I might say, our flag has stars and stripes, right? Let's name one thing that I said is on our flag. So it could be either stars or stripes, both start with S, right? So I'm not going to tell the student now they have to find it, like, because I need to know if they know the answer. Right? I'm going to explain to them, it doesn't matter, like, right? Either of these answers will be good, or if you don't know it, that's okay. I'm here to prompt you. I've got your back. This is not about whether or not you know the answer. This is getting your body to listen to your brain. So, let's point to the S, because both of them start with S. So I'm like giving it to them, right? Because my goal is getting their body to point to that letter versus I need to know that you know this answer. It's not about that. And I need to explain that to them because they're so used to being quizzed and having to prove themselves. I have a lot of work to undo to let them know they don't have to prove anything. I know that they probably know this answer. And if they don't, it's no big deal. I've got their back. I'm going to prompt them. I'm going to show them how to get there. So I give them that space to try to find the next letter. It's either for stars or stripes, right? Both is T. So I might warm them up and be like, let's point to S and then T, right? And so they're following me and they're pointing. And then they either have to go to A or R, right? And so then I'd be like, okay, you try. Which one do you want to spell? Stars or stripes? You choose. So it's either, and then I wait. And if they don't get it, then they don't do anything, or they hit an incorrect answer. I might say, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say, let's try either A for stars or R for stripes. And then if they still need help, I'm going to say, like, let's spell stars. Let's go straight to that A, right? I'm just helping your body listen to your brain. That's my job right now. So taking pressure off of them having to prove themselves is life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely. So important. Otherwise, it's always right answer. What's the right answer? Did you get the right answer?
That's when they're in that automatic impulsive part of their brain. And we can't, that's not where we want to be.
Absolutely.
We need to be in the purposeful part of their brain.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for that. Now, I wanted to kind of ask about how do we, what are the ways we could account for the anxieties, the sensory difficulties, and the poor sense of competence that children have about themselves, which leads to poor intrinsic motivation to try anything, right? Yes. So what are some of the ways we could do something?
Yes. I think prioritizing that relationship above anything else, prioritizing regulation, seeing yourself as a regulation partner. So explaining, it's like teaching this stuff. Have your student watch this with you, right? Explain that brain by, like, I know that your sensory system is on overload and it's a lot. So I'm going to try to find ways to help you feel calm so that it's easier to get your body to listen to your brain. Yeah. So how do we, tell me the question again? I feel like there was a lot of questions and I had so many ideas. Now I'm like, wait, where do I go?
Okay. So what are ways we could account for the anxieties, sensory difficulties, and poor sense of competence that leads to that poor intrinsic motivation?
Yeah. So I always have sensory things on hand, right? Like, can I be squeezing their hands while I'm talking to them? Or, hey, let them stim and run in circles while I read them from a textbook that's age appropriate, right? I think letting their body do what it needs to do to regulate. And then when it's time to be purposeful, do that purposefulness in small segments, and then spend a lot of time feeding their brain and build up their ability, right? And that can help build up their confidence. That can help them build up their, just calm that sensory system. Yeah.
Absolutely. I actually remember a story that you had mentioned, I'm not sure where, in one of your interviews. I remember hearing the story about one of your students wanted to try rock climbing, I think, and he was kind of shouting and screaming, no, but he was answering yes. That was the story. If you could.
You want me to tell that one?
Yeah.
Yes. So Elliot, oh my goodness. So Elliot, every time that This is way before. I've known him since he was little. So before I knew anything about the brain body disconnect. And he would, every time we take him out into the world, he would just have a meltdown. And it looked like this was torture. Why are we torturing him? He has the ability to be homeschooled. His parents were willing to do that. And so we just, as a team, all decided let's keep him home, because every time he goes out, he melts down, and that can't be good, right? So he just seemed so much happier at home and calm. And so then when I came back from Kegan, that experience, I'm like, okay, well, let me try this with Elliot, right? I'm going to learn with him. And Elliot was such a no kid. No was the first thing that comes out of his mouth for everything. So you just feel like you're always being shot down, like you can't do anything, right? Except have him sit on his iPad. That's all he wants to do. So when he learned to communicate, he said, I want to go rock climbing. We're like, oh, okay, cool. Let's go rock climbing. Now we're imagining, now that he can communicate, that this is going to be easy, right? We're going to go to that rock climbing gym. Cool. And now that he wants to do this, it's going to be easy. So we get in the car and we're driving to the rock climbing gym, and it's time to get out of the car. And just like all those other times, he melts down. Time to go home, time to go home, time to go home. Like real tears, red face. And we're like, okay, we can go home, but that's our old loop that we're stuck in. Bring out that communication board. Okay, Elliot, tell us what you want. It's totally okay if you want to go home, right? We hold that board there, and he spells, stay here. I want to go in. Okay, let's go in. No, right? Time to go home. So his voice is still saying, this is the brain body disconnect, right? This is the motor loop that he's stuck in. He is screaming, time to go home. But his spelling, stay here, let's go. So we have to find a way to be a balance between regulation partner so that his body can be purposeful. So we sit with him, we're present with him, we're breathing with him, we're giving him the different inputs that he needs sensory-wise to calm. And then we're giving him one little physical thing that he can put his attention on. So let's bring your feet from inside the car to outside the car. So instead of like, let's go to that building, right? That building is like 100 motor movements away or more. It's what's one thing he can do right now. Let's get your feet on the ground. Let's get your feet on the ground. And it took a half an hour as he's yelling and screaming, time to go home, but continually spelling, yes, I want to be here, keep going, of coaching his body step by step until we got inside that building. And then we ask him, okay, what now? I just want to watch. And as we stood and we watched for a half an hour, another half an hour, he calmed down and he was taking it all in. And then we left. And then the next time we came back, he was able to go in so much easier. And then he wanted to climb, but then his body freaked out again. And he would spell like, oh, I want to. So we'd have to work on walking a little bit farther. And it took so many different times of going back and just stretching it one step at a time to where eventually he was putting that harness on and climbing that wall.
Exactly. And that's why I remembered the story when you were narrating it before. And I thought it was such an interesting story for parents to understand that it's not all what you see. There's so much more. There's so much more there, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I had another question just related to this, because you mentioned this example, and I had a parent ask us, now, how do I know that they actually don't want to do it, or I'm pushing them beyond the boundaries and they're going to melt down? Like, where do I create that balance for them? Because normally when they go, you're like, okay, they don't want to try. Okay, it's fine. I'll let it be.
Right.
Yeah. We all do that. We all do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So she was asking then, in that case, when you're talking about brain body disconnect, is this that? Now, how do I figure out?
So I don't love my answer I wish I had a different answer, but it's like, we really don't know until we can ask them. Right. And it surprises me. I feel like every time it's these, my students surprise me. And so I can't predict, I can't know. I can just work on helping them get more purposeful and gain that ability to communicate. But in the meantime, right? In the meantime, I talk to them about how I don't know. Now, I don't know if you're wanting to watch this video over and over and over. It sure looks like you want that. But I also know that you probably want to do more. So I'm going to do my best to find a balance. You go ahead and watch that iPad, and I'm going to read to you. I'm going to play an audio, or whatever it may be. These kids have more sensitive hearing than you and I. Like, we always think, oh, turn off that iPad so you can listen, right? These kids are hearing more than you and I can comprehend, right? So don't feel like you have to get them. Like, ask them to turn the volume down if it's loud, right? And then you don't have to talk over it. You don't have to compete with it. Like, let them do that, but also feed their brain. And I think by telling them that I don't know, that's the best thing we can do until we do know.
Right. So you're telling them that, you know what, I don't have all the answers. Just because I test you doesn't mean I have all the answers. And I think that's where a lot of the anxiety comes in. Oh, you're testing me. Oh, I have to give this answer because you know the answer. And, what is the right answer? And you just get so anxious around that. How am I supposed to respond? Is there a right way to respond? Yeah.
Right. And add on top of that too, the anxiety of like, you're speaking for me as if you know what I want and what I don't want. Like, that's frustrating, right? When anybody tells you what you want and they're wrong and you're not able to correct them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think admitting that we don't know is
good. Yeah. I can completely agree with that, because I have a 15-year-old. Anything I ask him to, let's try, no, is the first answer I get. And then and then I would be like, again, I have seen him since he was 3 or 4. So he knows Shireen is not going to let go. So I was like, yeah, okay, but we can try. Let's just try it out. Let's try it out. I mean, we don't have to get it right. And I remember I gave him Lego, and we said, let's just try and create this. It's okay if it's wrong. And I made it a point to look, what, I don't know how to do this. I'm actually quite confused. I wonder, do we put this? What do we do here?
Yes.
We took, and it was one of those models you create with Lego, like a helicopter you create with tiny pieces. Now, I know he has the motor skills, but at the first day, because he was so anxious and his sense of competence was like really low, his first way of responding is just like, I don't know even how to touch this, manipulate this, nothing. But we did like a little bit of like, let's just try this part. Okay, we're done, and we'll keep it away and we'll try it another time. And over 3-4 sessions, it was amazing to see the change in which he started manipulating the pieces better. He started putting it better, and we finally created that helicopter.
Yes, it's like we give, I feel like we either give up or we push too hard, right? And it's like some relationship-based approaches are 100% child-led, and some behavioral approaches are 100% therapist-led. And what you're describing is this 50-50 relationship. And that's what it's like when I created natural play therapy, that's what it's based on. It's like real human relationships and dynamics require that 50-50 relation. I'm not a know-it-all. I don't have all the answers. I'm not dictating everything that's happening. Like, we're in this together. We're a team. And it's so healthy to admit when we don't know something, and and to be persistent. It's like that persistence that you had, you came back to it, but in this relaxed, chill, friend sort of way. Yes. I loved that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really important, to have that relationship where they can trust you and not know that you're going to just sit on their head and make them do 10,000 things constantly.
What's that? Who wants that? Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're coming to the last question, because there was another question about the doing, and I think you answered that beautifully earlier. So I'm going to move on to the next question. You and some amazing people, including non-speaking adults, have started this amazing educational course recently. Yeah. Could you talk a little bit more about that and who would benefit from that course?
Yes. So this course is called Communication for Education. And we are, so we're in April right now, right? And our pilot is going to be starting this month. And in the fall, we're going to be opening this course up to everybody. So if you go to, I'll tell you more about what it is, but go to communicationforeducation.com. And when you enter your information anywhere on there, we'll send you info on when the course is available. But it's really exciting because we're looking at how to bring communication into education. So how can we help give our students a voice within the classroom, right? How can we help them access the materials in an age-appropriate way where we're not stuck doing the same thing over and over and over? How can we be their regulation partners? How can we work on that relationship, that trust? How can we help them get their body purposeful so that they're connecting their mind and their body so that they can start to communicate more and access education in a more meaningful way? And the thing that makes this course so extra exciting is that we have partnered with all these 15 non-speaking people who are presenting in the course with us. We've also partnered with 15 professionals in the field who are professionals on each topic who speak to those points. And then my colleague Lisa and I, Lisa is from Reach Every Voice based in Maryland. She and I are teaching the majority of the content, but it's all based on, we had non-speakers review everything that we're teaching and give us feedback. So everything is approved by autistic people. It has their quotes throughout. It has their input throughout. So it'll be 15 modules. We are sponsored by Edlyn Pena, is a professor at California Lutheran University in California, and she founded the Autism Communication Center. And so Edlyn is a researcher in the autism field, and she had her eyes on this project from start to finish and has had huge influence in bringing in the research components and just so much. And not only that, but her center funded us along with an agency called Ability Central. So Ability Central gave us $90,000 and the Autism and Communication Center gave us $30,000. So to be able to really make this a quality experience, it's unbelievable. It's really exciting.
It is. I mean, I've been reading up on it. Every time you post something on Facebook, I'm like looking through it and going to your website. So is it for professionals? Is it for parents? Is it for anybody who
Good
wants
question.
to make a difference?
So it's focused on the educational setting, but educational setting can be a school, can be a therapy, therapeutic building, right? It can be homeschool. So education happens everywhere, right? We're focused on from that educational lens. But I think educators, parents, professionals, administrators, I think will all find value because education is happening everywhere. It's happening in speech therapy. It's happening in occupational therapy. It's happening in school. So it's focused on education, but we're all educators for our kids, right?
Absolutely. Right. And that comes to the end of our interview. So Julie, on behalf of PlayStreet team, I'd really like to thank you for your valuable time and sharing this amazing knowledge and your experiences with us. I hope all the viewers out there are really able to understand something about this concept, the mind-body disconnect, and how it applies to our children. I hope we can look beyond the superficial and learn to really dig deeper into the minds of our children who have so much to tell us. The reason we brought Julie in for this summit was because of this amazing knowledge she had on this topic, as well as her personal experiences. So we at PlayStreet wanted to help you connect to this. And really, that was our theme, the importance of relationships, purposeful movement, and consciousness, and to look at the child at a much deeper level and really help them to be the best versions of themselves in order to build their self-confidence, their sense of competence, and their sense of self. So I hope today you've all learned a lot from Julie and are ready to take the next step in putting together strategies that you could use to help children take small, successful steps every day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Take care and bye-bye.